Okay, phylum Porifera, these are the sponges. These are the sort of barely animals. Very low on the phylogeny, really the first group of animals that branch out. Very simple morphology, simple body plan. In fact, they don't even have tissues. They're multicellular, but their cells do not really aggregate into any type of specific tissues. They have specialized cell types, but the cell types don't really form into what we could classify as tissue. The slide that we're going to be looking at is called the Grantia slide. Let's see here, Grantia, Grantia. It has CS and LS cross section and long section. I'm going to put that up on our scope here. And take a look. Let me pull up our live view. I'll put this down on the scanning. Okay, suddenly we see some stuff coming into focus. Now, I'm going to focus this a little bit better. This is on 40x, magnified 40 times. And this is what you expect to see. Okay, now, what you're looking at here is the cross section. So, if my finger was the sponge, and it's sort of like the shape of these Grantia sponges. They're very simple and they're small. And we take a cross section, we're slicing through this way. It's like a little, it's called a microtome or a meat. It's like a meat slicer. You just take a real thin slice, lay it onto this microscope slide, and that is the cross section. Now, if I take that same sponge and I slice it, take a slice this way, long section, you'll see that here. Okay, there's one end of it. There's the other going towards the other end here. There's probably a couple of long sections on here. There's a long section, there's another one, and then possibly one underneath here. No, okay, so there's the longitudinal section. Okay. Sponges are real simple. They have tissue, or no, not tissue, but cells on the outside, and then there is a long cavity in the middle. Okay. Right, this is would be the cavity here, or if we look at this in cross section, here's the cavity, looking down into the cavity. And around the outside of the sponge are these little projections here. Okay, the projections are hollow also, and they enter into this central part called the spongiocele. So going back to our study guide here, right, we're looking at the spicules. This is on a separate slide. You won't be able to see the spicules in the Grantia slide. Okay. The osculum, okay, is the opening to the spongiocele. Okay, spongiocele is basically this long opening. Here's the spongiocele. Here's the osculum. Okay, so water goes in through these little incurrent pores, these little holes here into the spongiocele, out the top of the osculum. Okay, so here is a Grantia slide, whole organism. It would be attached to the substrate here. This is kind of upside down. The water would come in through these things called ostium. It would go into the spongiocele and out the osculum. Okay, so going back to our slide, a lot of this is just kind of figuring out how to make correspondence between what you're seeing in the book and what you're seeing on the slide. So here are those ostia, the little openings on the side that go in to the spongiocele, right? And then the water would come up sort of out of the screen. Okay, or if we're looking at this in a long section, likely this would be the bottom attachment, and then here we see can't get it all the way over. Arrgh. Okay, so here's the ostia on the sides. The water comes into the spongioseal, and now this just didn't happen. So if you think about, if there's a little tiny hole in the end of my finger, so this is like the osculum. I'm going to draw it on here. There's our osculum. You can see that little black dot. If the water is coming into the sides and out through the top, if I just slice through my finger over here, I'm not going to get a section that includes the little hole at the top. That's what happened here. Okay. Now, so this is the spongioseal. That is the osculum. You can't really see it in this section here. What else are we looking for? Choanocytes and pinacocytes. Okay, so the pinacocytes are basically like the skin of the sponge. So we're going to go back up to the cross section, and we're going to zoom in on this specific one. So I'm going to change the magnification here. I'm going to focus this. And so the pinacocytes would be this on the outside covering. This on the inside too. It's like the epidermis, the pinacocytes. Okay, now if I keep zooming in, we're going to see these choanocytes. Okay, inside of these little canals, lining the inside of those canals, we see this specialized cell type. These guys in here are the choanocytes. Okay, lining the inside. So the water comes in through, see if I can move this without moving it too far. Okay, so the water comes in through these ostium. They move through, water moves through these canals into the spongioseal. The reason the water moves is because of these little choanocytes. Okay, they're ciliated. You'll see them in lecture or the video, but they have little flagella. They're flagellated, not ciliated. So they have a flagella that whips around and creates a current. Okay, and that's basically the in and out of a sponge. Okay, so big picture, water in the choanocytes are in these little canals here. Pinacocytes cover them. The choanocytes have the flagella. They whip their tail around. It moves the water. The water comes through. It's filtered out by the choanocytes too into the spongioseal, out the osculum. So choanocytes create a current. They do the filtering. The pinacocytes are the covering. Spongioseal is just a cavity. The osculum is the exit tube. Okay. So when you come to lab next week, you're going to want to obviously spend some time going through. Oh, here's an even more focused. This is, I think, maybe how many times magnified is this? This is 400 times magnified. Okay, so we zoom out. We'll see those canals. Keep zooming out. We'll see the larger canal. Zoom all the way. We'll see here is those little projections, the ostium, spongioseal. So spend some time with this in lab next week, and that is about the sponges.